obsolete. There is no fourth option hiding somewhere between these three. The evidence does not support ambiguity. One of these scenarios is the reality being observed right now by instruments on every continent and in orbit above every ocean. Consider the engineering scale required for any one of them. To manipulate a planetary crust from 240 million kilometers away demands mastery over spacetime itself, a capability that renders the gap between our civilization and whatever is operating 3-2 Atlas so vast that comparison becomes almost meaningless. Even our most theoretical models of advanced propulsion, directed energy, or gravitational engineering do not approach what the data is documenting. The clock is not pausing for analysis. The pulse intervals are now 47 minutes and shrinking. The prime number sequence is repeating and accelerating its transmission rate. The mid-Atlantic ridge is rotating into alignment. And the instruments watching all of this are producing readings that the world's governments have decided the public cannot see in real time. What happens in the final hours of this alignment window? That is where everything either becomes clear or becomes catastrophic. Right now, as you are watching this, the James Webb Space Telescope is collecting spectral data on 3-2 Atlas at maximum resolution. Every passing hour adds new seismic observations from arrays that are still partially accessible to independent researchers. The object is 14 hours away from achieving perfect mechanical alignment with the Mariana subduction zone, one of the most geologically complex and pressure-loaded boundaries on the entire planet. The Global Orbital Telescope Network is fully pointed. Deep ocean strain detectors are operating at their highest sensitivity thresholds. The classified telemetry stream, now locked away from public access, is active and feeding data to rooms we do not have visibility into. The prime number sequence is still transmitting, its repetition rate increasing with each new cycle. And whatever 3-2 Atlas is communicating through the solid rock of this planet, the message is not finished. Step back and look at the full picture assembled from everything documented across this analysis. An object that defies the thermal behavior of all known comets. A surface that neither heats nor erodes despite solar proximity. A mass that fluctuates by 14% and then resets with zero debris. Gravimetric pulses that violate Newton's foundational inverse square law. Compression events cross-verified by 3 independent institutions using 3 separate methodologies. A rotation axis that physically adjusts to maintain target lock on our planet. A transmission encoding pi into Japanese bedrock and prime numbers into Pacific fault lines. Data blackouts imposed simultaneously by the 2 most powerful space agencies in human history. Each of these facts, isolated, would represent the discovery of the decade. Together, they form something that no 2%. The probability of an object exhibiting mass fluctuations without shedding any detectable debris sits below 0.001%. The probability of both events occurring simultaneously, synchronized to a 3.14 Hz mathematical frequency? The calculation collapses to 1 in 14.8 trillion. For comparison, you have a statistically better chance of winning a major global lottery every single day for the rest of your life than of witnessing this specific combination occur naturally. In the entire recorded history of modern seismology, no external stimulus has ever overridden internal planetary tectonics with this degree of precision. During one of these mass fluctuations, the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope captured a spectroscopic signature from the object that introduced yet another layer of impossibility. The data revealed a heavy concentration of exotic isotopes, elements that have no business existing at the thermal conditions surrounding 3-2 Atlas. It is generating internal heat through an active process that is neither solar radiation nor radioactive decay. The exterior of the object hovers near absolute zero. Its core is burning. It is operating as an insulated engine running in deep space, and no natural stellar formation process produces that configuration. Avi Loeb, the former chair of astronomy at Harvard University and one of the world's foremost authorities on interstellar anomalies, publicly stated that classical astrophysics cannot account for this directed kinetic energy transfer. When a scientist of that standing makes that statement in the open, it is not speculation. It is a professional acknowledgement that the data has exceeded every available model. Meanwhile, The United States Geological Survey quietly elevated its monitoring posture across the entire Pacific Rim to a DEFCON level alert protocol. The intervals between pressure events, which had been 12 hours apart at T-minus 48 hours, compressed to 6 hours at T-minus 24 hours. Right now, as of this analysis, pulses are arriving every 47 minutes. The frequency is not drifting randomly. It is tightening algorithmically. Something is winding up, and the data recorded the morning before this broadcast crossed a threshold that triggered an emergency classified briefing at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The pressure in these tectonic plates is not simply a physical side effect. The scientists in that room realized it is a transmission, and what it is transmitting is what changes everything. On April 28, 2026, at 2:14 UTC, a combined supercomputer cluster at MIT processed every recorded microseismic interval from the Pacific Rim compressions. The researchers fed in the 47-minute pulse windows, the 1 to 2 millimeter depth measurements, and the 3. Something happened 14 hours ago that no government agency wants you to fully understand. On June 22, 2026, an object millions of kilometers away physically moved the ground beneath your feet, not through an earthquake, not through a volcanic eruption, through something that our best physicists are openly admitting they cannot explain using any known law of nature. The object is called 3-2 Atlas. It was initially logged as an interstellar comet, the third of its kind ever recorded. But what happened in the early hours of today has permanently changed how every major space agency on Earth is classifying this thing. NASA's Deep Space Network and the United States Geological Survey simultaneously detected an event originating from this incoming object. The statistical probability of it occurring naturally? 0.00001%. We are not discussing a faint light irregularity captured by a telescope. We are talking about localized, directed pressure applied with surgical precision directly to the Earth's crust. Here's what makes this so difficult to dismiss. An object sitting hundreds of millions of kilometers away, supposedly a cold, inert comet, projected a gravimetric wave so tightly focused that it physically compressed the Cascadia subduction zone by exactly 1.4 millimeters. That level of precision from that kind of astronomical distance does not happen by accident. It requires focus. It requires targeting. It requires something that natural physics has never once produced. When you run the numbers through classical mechanics, everything falls apart. Newton's laws are clear on this point. Gravitational influence disperses outward in all directions. It weakens with distance. It does not concentrate. It does not behave like a targeted acoustic beam. Yet right now, ESA's Gaia spacecraft is measuring a continuous rhythmic depression on our lithosphere. The crust is being pushed down, then released. Pushed down, then released. Over and over again at precise intervals. 1.4 millimeters sounds small. In everyday terms, it is barely the width of a mechanical pencil lead. But in geological terms, in the context of tectonic friction and fault line stress, that displacement represents an energy application equivalent to 33 billion tons of kinetic force, materialized from the vacuum of space and delivered to a single fault line. Leading seismologists at Caltech, scientists who have spent 4 decades modeling plate dynamics, have openly stated this event breaks their models entirely. And here's where it gets impossible to ignore. 3 completely independent scientific institutions confirmed this. NASA locked in the initial gravimetric wave at 4:12 UTC. ESA's terrestrial sensor arrays match the exact same frequency. Seismic monitoring stations